In August 1776, George Washington commanded an army of 20,000 men defending New York. By December, he had 3,000 left. Most had died. Many deserted. The rest were starving, freezing, and ready to quit. The British Army was hours away from ending the American Revolution. Before it really began, this is the story of how America almost died in New York and how one man refused to let it happen. In July 1776, New York was the strategic key to the American colonies. Control New York, and you split New England from the southern colonies. Control the Hudson River, and you control everything. George Washington knew this, so did the British. That's why, on June 29, 1776, the largest expeditionary force in British history arrived in New York Harbor. 400 ships, 32,000 soldiers, 10,000 sailors. The fleet stretched for miles. British warships with more cannons than the entire Continental Army had muskets. Washington watched from Brooklyn Heights as ship after ship dropped anchor. His army, mostly farmers and shopkeepers who'd never fought a real battle, stood beside him, looking at their doom. One officer wrote, "I could not believe that such a force could be brought against us. The forest of masts looked like all of London had sailed to destroy us." Washington had 20,000 men. Most had joined just weeks ago. They had no navy, limited ammunition, no cavalry worth mentioning, and they were about to fight the most powerful military force on Earth. Military experts in Europe gave the Americans no chance. None. The rebellion would be crushed in weeks, maybe days. They were almost right. On August 22nd, the British struck. Under cover of darkness, 15,000 British and Hessian soldiers landed on Long Island. Their objective, surround and destroy Washington's army in a single decisive battle. Washington had split his forces. 9,000 men defended Brooklyn. The rest held Manhattan. A fatal mistake that nearly cost America everything. The British plan was brilliant. While their main force attacked head-on, a flanking column would march through an unguarded pass and hit the Americans from behind. Classic military tactics, perfectly executed. On the morning of August 27, American sentries heard something in the fog. Drums, thousands of them. Then the forest seemed to come alive with red coats. The British had surrounded them. What followed was a massacre. American militia units broke and ran. Some Continental regiments fought desperately, buying time for others to escape. Maryland soldiers made a heroic stand, charging British lines 6 times to let their comrades retreat. By afternoon, the Americans were trapped, their backs to the East River, the British in front, no escape. Casualties told the story. The Americans lost over 1,000 killed or captured. The British lost 400, but Washington did something unexpected. Instead of surrendering, he made a decision that would save the revolution. That night, under cover of fog and darkness, he evacuated his entire army across the East River. 9,000 men, all their equipment, artillery, supplies, in complete silence. By dawn, when the British advanced to finish the Americans off, they found empty trenches. The Continental Army had vanished like ghosts. One British officer wrote, "They left so quietly we never heard a sound." But the British had New York, and they weren't done. For the next 3 months, Washington's army did nothing but retreat. The British took Manhattan. Washington fled north to White Plains. The British followed. Washington retreated into New Jersey. With every battle, his army shrank. Men died. Men deserted. Men simply gave up and went home. Supplies ran out. There was no money to pay soldiers. No food. Winter was coming, and most men had no coats. Some had no shoes. One soldier wrote home, "We are in a truly deplorable condition. No tents, no shoes, no clothes. Many march barefoot in the snow." The British commander, General Howe, was confident. He didn't even bother pursuing Washington aggressively. Why rush? The Continental Army was falling apart on its own. The British set up comfortable winter quarters in New York City. Warm buildings, hot food. They'd finished the rebels in spring. By December, Washington's army had shrunk to 3,000 men, and their enlistments expired on December 31st. In 2 weeks, there might be no Continental Army at all. Congress fled Philadelphia, expecting the British to arrive any day. Many members talked about surrender. Thomas Paine, who'd been with the army during the retreat, wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls. Washington knew he needed a victory, not a small one, a dramatic, shocking victory that would prove the cause wasn't lost. But how? His army was destroyed. His men were broken. The British were everywhere. He looked at the map, and he saw an opportunity. Across the Delaware River in Trenton, New Jersey, 1,500 Hessian soldiers were celebrating Christmas, comfortable, confident, unprepared. It was insane, a desperate gamble. His army might fall apart crossing the river, but doing nothing meant certain defeat. So Washington decided to attack. On Christmas night, 1776, Washington gathered what remained of his army. The plan: cross the Delaware River in the middle of winter, march 9 miles in a snowstorm, and attack at dawn. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The river was full of ice chunks. The boats were small. The crossing took longer than planned. A snowstorm hit. Men's muskets got wet and wouldn't fire. The password for the night was victory or death. Many thought it would be death, but Washington pushed forward. There was no turning back now. By 4 a.m., they'd crossed. By 8 a.m., they reached Trenton, hours behind schedule. Surprise was gone. The attack should have been called off, but the Hessians, hungover from Christmas celebrations, were still in their beds. At 8 a.m., Washington's frozen, exhausted army charged into Trenton from 2 directions. What happened next stunned everyone. The Hessians, caught completely unprepared, surrendered after an hour of fighting. The Americans captured nearly 1,000 prisoners, lost only 4 men. It wasn't a big battle, it didn't win the war, but it changed everything. News of Trenton spread through the colonies like fire. The rebellion wasn't dead. Washington wasn't beaten. There was still hope. Men who'd planned to go home stayed. New recruits joined. Congress came back to Philadelphia. 1 week later, Washington struck again at Princeton, defeating another British force. The British retreated to New York, stunned. Their easy winter turned into a nightmare. The Revolution, which everyone thought was over, had just begun again, because one man refused to quit when quitting made perfect sense. History books show Washington crossing the Delaware standing heroically in a boat. The reality was different. He was 44 years old. He'd lost almost every battle. Most of his army had died or deserted. Congress blamed him for the failures. His own officers doubted him. He wrote to his brother, "I think the game is pretty near up," but he didn't quit. Not because he was superhuman, because he understood something. The revolution wasn't about winning battles. It was about refusing to lose. As long as his army existed, the cause existed. As long as he didn't surrender, America had a chance. That's leadership, not winning, surviving when everyone else would quit. 3,000 frozen, starving men looked at him on that freezing Christmas night and said, "If he's going, we're going." That's why America survived 1776. Today you can visit Washington Crossing State Park, where he crossed the Delaware. Stand on that riverbank in winter. Feel how cold it is, then imagine being hungry, shoeless, unpaid. Your enlistment up in a week. You could go home, but instead you get in a small boat and cross an ice-filled river to attack professional soldiers because a man you trust asked you to. That's what those 3,000 men did. New York 1776 wasn't America's finest hour. It was America's darkest. But darkness showed what the revolution was really made of. Not speeches, not documents. Men who refused to quit when quitting made sense. If you want to see more Revolutionary War history reconstructed, let me know in the comments, because these moments made America. Thanks for watching.